And what we're doing today is the near west bank release of a dye plume. We released it upstream of Marysville, and we're tracking as it travels downstream as far as Algonac.
On the St. Clair River today, we released a dye called rhodamine WT into the river, and then we went back and forth as the dye traveled down the river, testing where it was in the river, not only where it was on the surface, but also where it was through the water column.
It's a fluorescent red dye, so when it's initially released, and for the first few upstream transects, it is visible, but when it gets sufficiently dilute, you can only sense it with our instruments, which are fluorometers. We have each boat is equipped with 2 fluorometers, and they measure fluorescence. So we pump a sample into the fluorometer. It causes the dye to fluoresce and records basically the concentration, or it's related to the concentration of the dye.
And what that was doing was giving us data to compare against outputs from a model that has been developed that talks about the flow, the hydrodynamic flow of the river, so that those data can be compared against our model output so we can tell how accurate the model is.
Well, we use computers to simulate the physical environment in the Great Lakes. We call those computer models of the Great Lakes. The computer model predicts that there are stronger currents in the middle of the river, weaker currents near the sides. The colors of the arrows represent the speed of the current, red being faster and green being slower. As the current goes around Stag Island here, it tends to slow down, a little bit of stagnation north of the island. We'll be watching whether the dye goes to the east or the west of the island. Then there's convergence again at the southern end of the island. A main thing we look at is how long it's going to take the dye to travel down the river, and whether that matches with what the computer model is predicting.
The model can be used by a variety of users. We think that it will be a real advantage for search and rescue. So if something falls in the river in one location, we can use the model to predict where that object will be, 2 hours out, 4 hours out, that kind of activity. If there's a spill, we can tell, especially given the fact that we're looking at dispersion of the dye through the water column, we can talk about where it's best to be downstream to contain the spill. It can also help during a spill event by telling the water treatment plants when we anticipate the spill to be in their vicinity, so they can shut off their water until the spill is passed, and we know how long it would take the spill to pass as a result of the dye test.